Okay, so let's take a look at the F chord, the dreaded F chord. Now, don't get too psyched out about this one. You can do this. I know if you've done any kind of reading online or something, you see that the F chord is difficult. And it is probably one of the more difficult chords you're going to learn in the beginning. But you can do this. Little kids do this. If I can do this, anybody can play the F chord. So, let's break it down. Now, what I like to do is I like to take the most difficult part of the chord and overcome that first, and then we'll piece on the easier parts. I think it's easiest to kind of work that way. So the most difficult part of the F chord is we take our pointer finger and we push down on the first fret, the first two strings. I'm barring those first two strings like that. Now, why that's challenging is because it's happening on the first fret. So as the strings come across the nut here, the tension is really high. Because they're actually kind of raised here by the nut, so you're overcoming a little bit of extra. You're having to apply a little bit of extra pressure to get those two notes to ring out the way that they should. Obviously, if you're playing them up here, much easier to push down. So, I think this is what makes the F chord the most challenging: is two strings, one finger, happening at the first fret. So, make sure you can play those first two notes before you move on, just so you can see what I'm doing. Just the first two. And make sure that they ring out nice and clear. Don't move on until you can get these. So now what we're going to do... Oh, another thing before I move on. Look at my thumb. It's back here pushing right in the middle of the neck. So I'm kind of doing this. I'm kind of squeezing. The thumb is helping me to squeeze and push down with this finger to get those two strings. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our middle finger and we're going to push down on the third string, second fret, which is an F note. And we're going to play all three of those together now. So it should sound like this. And see, I'm strumming just the first three strings. And hopefully you're able to, hopefully you didn't lose anything with your first setup here with your first finger when you added this one. If you did, kind of play around with it, look at what's going on, look at where your problems are. If something is doing that or buzzing or something, just really analyze what's going on here and take your other hand and actually push them into the right place. Sometimes you have to kind of tilt your wrist, to get a different angle. But play around with your hand until you get those first three strings to ring out. Now, I will say it's going to be painful a little bit in the beginning because you're using muscles you haven't, and you're probably pushing down a little harder than you've had to. So if it does hurt, there's not much you can do about that. You can take your hand away and kind of wring it out a little bit. That seems to help me. But just keep trying, and over time, over the course of a couple of days of practicing this, you'll get to where you can do it and it won't even hurt. So we got these three. And the next string we're gonna add is we're gonna skip our ring finger for now. We're gonna go to our pinky, and we're gonna push down on the fourth string, third fret, right there. And create this note. Now we're gonna play all four of the first four strings together now, and it should sound like this. Again, what I'm doing here, just the first four. Now, if you can do that, you're well on your way to finishing up the F chord, because we've only got one finger left. And this finger, we're going to put it down now. We're going to put it down on the fifth string, third fret. So it lives in the same fret as your pinky. It's just on the fifth string. So they're kind of very close. And what it sounds like with that note, that's a C note, and it should sound like that. So now, technically, if we play, we've got an F chord. So if we play all five strings now, it should sound like that. Here's what it looks like. Okay? So that is an F chord. Again, look at my my thumb back here. It's really kind of squeezing. Now, In the beginning, that's probably going to be how you hold this, but for some reason over the years, I'm not sure how this switch happened, but when I make an F chord now, I kind of do it like this. So for some of you, that might be an easier way to do it. Once you get all your fingers, this won't work when you're doing this, but once you get all your fingers on the fretboard, it might be easier for you to, basically, you're pushing with this part of your hand back here, and you're squeezing like this. So I'm kind of squeezing these. I'm not sure which is easier for you in the beginning. I play an F kind of both ways, but my hunch is that this will be the easier route in the beginning, is just to get, have your thumb back there, because you can really kind of pinpoint the pressures you need. But either way is technically correct. As long as the notes are ringing out, you're playing the F. Now we're going to learn, once we get into bar chords, we're going to learn how to, you would actually bar this first fret like that, and you can play all 6 strings, and that's a proper F. But this is how most people make the F when they're strumming in a song. So that's a C, that's a F, C, F, C. And after you practice this over and over again, you'll be able to quickly grab that F chord. It'll come very natural. Whether you're grabbing it with your thumb in the back or your thumb kind of wrapping over, it doesn't matter. But you'll be able to do that quickly. So practice, and I promise if you keep practicing it, you'll be able to do it. So hang in there and keep at it.